Chapter 4. Check out the new unis, man. Rico's huge grin curved up like goalposts. He stuck out his arms to show off the new team colors. The uniforms were royal blue with white and gold numbers on the front and back. With threads like these, I'm definitely coming back to school. Jamal stood next to Rico in the locker room. He pulled his own jersey over his brand new shoulder pads. He had never had new equipment before. For years, Southside had made do with gear left over from previous seasons. Jerseys that were ripped from too many tackles, helmets that were missing chin straps, pads that were so thin they wouldn't protect anyone. Last year, Carlos had been hurt because his shoulder pads were too small. Wearing a new helmet, shoulder pads, pants, and cleats made Jamal feel like he was in the big leagues. That he played on a school team that cared about football like all the other school teams did. "What's this?" Darnell asked, pointing to a colorful cartoon fort on his shoulder. "It's the Fort Sports logo," Eli said. "You know, like the store." Billy grimaced. "It looks like one of those blow-up bouncy castles at a kid's birthday party." "We're the Saints, not the bouncy castles," Darnell said. It didn't seem to bother Carlos. If a bouncy castle gets us new jerseys and equipment, then I'm cool with it. "Me too," Eli agreed. The other heads in the locker room nodded. Still, Jamal wasn't so sure. Suddenly, the door to the locker room swung open. Jamal looked over and was almost blinded. Bright TV lights and camera flashes followed a crowd of people. It was a crazy scene. Reporters were shouting questions. Photographers were jumping over each other, trying to get in the best position to cover all the action. Principal Campbell led the media crush into the middle of the room. Microphones were thrust in front of her as she began to speak. "I'd like to have everyone's attention. This is a big day for Southside football, and none of it would be possible without the gentleman standing to my left." Principal Campbell nodded at the man beaming next to her. He was big, almost fat. Dark, stubbly hair topped a face that was red and round. Sweat beaded on his forehead. The black suit he wore had to be left unbuttoned at the front. It just wasn't big enough to cover his paunchy stomach. "I'd like everyone to meet the president of Fort Sports and the new head coach of the Southside Saints, Mr. Roland Fort." Hoots, whistles, and applause filled the locker room. Jamal and his teammates knew they wouldn't be getting to play real football if it wasn't for Mr. Fort. "This is a great day for the Southside Saints and a great day for Fort Sports," Mr. Fort said, holding up a new jersey. He flashed the Fort logo in front of the cameras. "First of all, we can get rid of all that president and Mr. Fort stuff. From now on, just call me Coach." Jamal liked that. Any coach should just be called Coach. But he did wonder why he only showed off the logo for Fort Sports and not the Saints. "At Fort Sports, we want to make sure every high school can have a football team, even a school like this one." Coach Fort smiled for the cameras again. "That's why Fort Sports has donated $20,000 to get the Southside team going again." The crowd hooted and clapped again. "Now, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them." Jamal could see some of the reporters had questions, but so did he, a big one. He was nervous in front of all the TV cameras, but he asked anyway, "What do you mean, a school like this one?" Coach Fort looked uneasy. He dabbed the sweat from his forehead. "You know, for kids in a school that are disadvantaged." Jamal had never heard anyone describe him as disadvantaged before. Poor, maybe. Having to work hard to get ahead, maybe. But disadvantaged? That sounded like he was beat before he started. He had never felt that way, on or off the football field. "Let me explain," Coach Fort said. "I look around the room and I see kids with skin of all different colors. Kids that may not have a bright future because of that. Kids who may want to quit going to class, who may be wondering, what's school going to do for me?" Jamal glanced at Rico. He was nodding. He hadn't gone to class the whole first week. He didn't think school was going to get him a better job. Jamal thought Rico must be the kind of kid Coach Fort was talking about, but his other friends weren't like that. Darnell, Carlos, Billy, and Eli might not like doing homework, but they all thought school would help them. They all had plans. "Football is a great reason to come to school," Coach Fort said, grinning into the cameras. "Maybe it's the only reason you come to school. And you never know. If the the Southside Saints, do well, these kids might even get to play college or pro. Now that would be something." Jamal's eyes darted over to Principal Campbell. He saw her jaw drop. He could tell she wasn't happy. He could tell she wasn't happy with what Coach Fort was saying about their school, but it was too late. She had wanted a football team just like the players had. Saying yes to Roland Fort and his money was the only way to get one. All she could do for now was bite her tongue. Principal Campbell, a reporter said, pointing his microphone at her. Do you think football is a good reason for kids to come to school? Playing football, she said, gritting her teeth, is just one of many good reasons to come to Southside. Jamal rolled Coach's words around in his head. What did he mean? That football was the only reason Jamal went to school? That he had no future because of his skin color? That he wasn't smart enough? Jamal wasn't sure he believed any of that. All he knew was that he liked to play football, and Coach Fort was giving him that chance. He couldn't wait to hit the field.